This question will also be for both candidates, and this time you will have 2 minutes to respond. The next mayor will take helm of a new public-private partnership for the Pontiac Phoenix Center. What are your thoughts on how the city got to this point, and what is your plan for the park construction amphitheater going forward? Starting with Mr. Grimal.
Yeah. I'm the only candidate in this race who spoke out against the Phoenix Center deal when it was proposed back in November, December, and January. I sent an email to City Council and the mayor expressing my serious concerns and opposition to the approach. I also was quoted in the Detroit Free Press as raising serious concerns because I will always fight for the best interest of residents and taxpayers, and there are details in that proposal and that deal that are very troubling and put our city and its residents at risk. Having said that, it appears that that is a done deal now because of decisions made by the current administration. And number one, we've got to make sure that we're holding the new private owner of Ottawa Towers accountable for what they agreed to do under that deal. So holding them accountable to actually live up to their side of the deal, number one. And number two, we've got to make sure that we're using the amphitheater on top of the Phoenix Center to make downtown Pontiac a destination again. And that is critically important. We used to have Arts, Beats, and Eats. We used to have the Fireworks Festival. We used to have the Taste Fest, the Mexican Festival, the Puerto Rican Festival. We've got to get back to making downtown Pontiac a destination. And that means giving Pontiac residents a reason to come downtown, but it also means giving people from throughout Southeast Michigan a reason to come to Pontiac, spend their money in our community, supporting our local businesses and our jobs. And the Phoenix Center Amphitheater can be a focal point and a centerpiece of those efforts.
Accounting standards. Others that wish to have the floor? Mayor and Deputy Mayor, of the remaining obligations and assets of the municipality, is the Phoenix Center the biggest albatross, or are there bigger albatrosses around our neck?
I missed the first part of that. In terms of buildings and capital improvements, or just broader issues writ large?
I'm just thinking those that would be perceived as assets but are, obligations, so you can look at it very broadly.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the Phoenix Center is in a class of its own when it comes to that category, which is, I know that there have been people who have spoken of it as an asset, and there are aspects to that structure that are assets if you look at some portion of the structure as a whole. But overall, I would say that the structure as a whole is clearly a liability. And that was the case, frankly, even before this 10-year legal saga and horrible settlement agreement occurred. There were enormous deferred maintenance expenses that the city had and was facing for that structure. And that's true even before it was closed, even before the electrical was stripped, even before there was vandalism to it. And it was true even before this horrible settlement agreement obligated the city to pay $6 million to the previous owners of Ottawa Towers. Now that all of those things have come into play, it's clearly as a whole a liability for the city. And, and of course, part of that is that whereas, 10 years ago, the city could use it for parking, which we have a very serious need for downtown, the city now has no ability to utilize it for parking. A private entity can utilize it for parking as needed, but the city no longer has the ability to use it for public parking. The only remaining aspect to the facility that has any asset potential is the amphitheater on the roof of the parking structure. But even there, it requires an enormous amount of upgrades to really be usable. The deputy mayor talked about ADA compliance and making sure that it has a working elevator for disabled participants participants or patrons who might visit it. But there are a lot of other upgrades that are needed. And of course, it's always been an awkward arrangement as a public venue just based on it being raised several stories off street level. So if you think about what public spaces and parks tend to be more amenable to public use and as a commons area that creates a sense of space and community, a street level public square would generally be much more amenable than a 3-story high space that has a visible physical barrier to public participation. Having to walk up giant flights of stairs, having a giant concrete facade that is not aesthetically pleasing, are not aspects you would generally today design as amenable to a sense of community, a publicly accessible and aesthetically pleasing space.
Other discussion on the Parking Enterprise Fund. Councilman James.
Well, I don't disagree with you, Mayor Grimal, but I do think that, you know, in terms of our city wanting to change and move forward, we have got to stop delaying decisions. And if we really consider that building as being a liability, then we need to be looking at, you know, can the building be sold? We need to be looking at what are the options open to us. What we can't do is continue to allow these spaces to sit dormant. You know, we've got community centers that have been closed for 10, 20 years. And we just allow things to sit dormant like, you know, nobody else does this. I'm sorry. Nobody else does this. And we can't continue to do it. So we've got to make a decision. If we think it's too much of a liability for the city to try to maintain, what are the other options? What do they look like? Because we need to talk about it. But what we can't do is just do nothing, pay our bills, and the residents of this city have no access to that building. We're constantly paying for things that we get absolutely nothing out of. And that's a real concern. So just my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Councilman Grimal. Mayor Grimal and then Councilman Nicholson.
I completely agree with every single word you said.
Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here. It's great to see so many friendly faces in the crowd. This is a really exciting day for Pontiac. Thanks to Congressman Levin's stellar leadership in Washington, D.C., we are on track to receive $3.2 million towards the Bagley Gulf Drive reconstruction project. These are roads that are in really, really tough shape currently, and thanks to Congressman Levin's incredible work securing $3.2 million in a House appropriations bill, together with Highway Safety Improvement Program funding and the city of Pontiac putting in some matching dollars as well, we are on track to see a transformational project along Bagley and Gulf Drive next year in 2023. This project is obviously a huge benefit to Pontiac and to our residents, but it also has regional benefits beyond just the boundaries of our city. United Wholesale Mortgage has a huge 8,000 employee facility over on South Boulevard, and a very large number of their employees travel along South Boulevard to and from work. In addition, South Boulevard is a general entrance point to the city, as is Gulf Drive, and so this improvement to Gulf Drive will help facilitate thousands of employees going to and from United Wholesale Mortgage,
as well as additional visitors to our great city. Bagley Street, right here where we're standing, is also a key corridor here in the community. It certainly is a hugely important road for our seniors, and I see Carolyn Price, the president of the Golden Opportunity Club here. But it's also very important because it is the gateway to the terminus here at Bagley for the Clinton River Trail, which is a regional recreational asset for the entire area. And so we are so incredibly grateful for the support and hard work of Congressman Levin in securing $3.2 million in the House bill. Now we just need to make sure that it stays in the bill as it moves through and passes the U.S. Senate. So we're focused on that, and have already begun reaching out to our two U.S. senators, Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow, to make sure that they continue to champion this important investment in Pontiac's future and in Southeast Michigan's future. So